Good morning, everyone. It's Foes again, Botanical Pharmacist. And how have you been? Welcome to the Instagram Live, our weekly catch-up. And today I just wanted to talk about sleep. And the reason being, next week is Mental Health Awareness Week. And the theme this year is going to be about kindness. To do with the COVID outbreak, but the original theme was going to be sleep, but I just thought sleep is still appropriate. Sleep is so important for immunity anyway, and we probably need that more than ever now. So that's the reason why I've looking at sleep, and really just wanting to find out what your questions are. I'm going to be joined by Paula later, so she's going to bring a different perspective on it, from the food and nutrition angle. But really, I suppose I just wanted to talk about, why sleep is so important. It's also about not just the quantity. We all know we need to get 7 to 8, 9 hours a night, but actually it's more than that. It's about the quality of sleep, and to know that it means you really need to look at how you get good quality sleep, so that you are sleeping in a way that's really nourishing and really refreshing for you. So really, why is sleep so important? I mean, when you think about it, sleep, we spend 7, 8, 9 hours of our day asleep, and from evolutionary terms, that's probably not the best use of our time, but obviously it is really, really vital. They're found now, through research and medical science, that actually it's involved in so many other processes. It's a vital function, so it's really important for immunity, as I mentioned earlier. It helps keep our immune system in top shape. It's really good for repair, so repairing our body, the different tissues, the functions, our heart, our organs, really, really important for that. Again, the other thing that is obvious is our mental well-being. It's important to get a good night's sleep. Who hasn't been grouchy and felt like they've got out of the bed the wrong side if they haven't had a good night's sleep? And of course that then is with you for the whole day. So it's really, really important for all of that. But the other important thing is memory. And they're now thinking that actually memory, when you go to sleep, when you go into your different types of sleep, so your deep sleep and so on, it's where your memory is being backed up. So if you think of it as, computer, you've got these things going on in the background, and they back up, and you've got the memory and the storage and so on, and they think that's what's happening there. So it's reinforcing the memories and ditching the ones that are not so important. So that's why it's really, sleep is so fundamental to our health. And, we know actually when we're not getting sleep, again, they think bad night's sleep, or, prolonged and chronic, sleeplessness, or not getting enough sleep, is implicated in Alzheimer's. So again, going back to the memory, we're more susceptible to infections. They think there's some link with cancers and things like that. So there are a lot of things that actually, if we're not getting a good night's sleep, it's bad for our health, so our physical and mental well-being. So what is good sleep? What do we mean by that? So as I said earlier, it's not just about the quantity. They recommend we have between 7 and 9 hours sleep. I probably have about 7.5 hours sleep. Any less than that, and if you're kidding yourself thinking, I can survive on 6 hours sleep, I don't need as much sleep, I can burn the candle at both ends, actually that cumulatively is not good for you. So just bear that in mind. But it's not just the quantity, it's the quality as well. So if you think about sleep, you've got different you've got a cycle. A cycle of sleep is an hour and a half, and you have about 4 of those a night. And you start off with, you're dropping off, and then you go into light sleep, and then you go into deep sleep. And then as you get to the other end of the cycle, you go into REM, so rapid eye movement, and that's when you're dreaming, and that's when your brain is processing the things that are going on. That's why dreams are so bizarre. But each of those is so important to your well-being. So as I said, it's an hour and a half, so you go down, you know, into deep sleep, and then you rise, and then you go down again, and you get about, you know, 4 of those a night. So why am I talking about sleep now? Why is it so important? We've become an indoor generation, so we are not out in natural light a lot. You know, we're indoors, we're working in offices, or we're just indoors, particularly in the winter. We're not as active as probably we used to be. You know, a lot of our jobs and, you know, our lifestyle is quite sedentary now, and all of these are really important for getting that cycle, and getting us, you know, sleeping well. Stress, screens, I think particularly, you know, with younger people, it's, you know, it all impacts on that. The screen, the blue light actually interferes with your sleep ability to drop off to sleep. So you know, it all does impact. And obviously anxiety of news, social media, all of that impacts, and it means we're not getting the sleep that we should be getting. So how do we fix it? I'm going to take some questions at the end. I'm just going to talk through some of the things that we can do to fix, and you can then go through some questions and then bring Paula in. So the Mental Health Foundation have got a really good acronym. I love acronyms because I think they're really, really useful in remembering a lot of information. It just means you're basically putting them into compartments. So they use an acronym called HEAL. So HEAL, health. If you're not feeling well, if you feel cold, flu, you know, if you've got, you know, mild, you know, depression or anything like that, we know what that impacts, how that impacts on our sleep. You know, we're not sleeping very well. So it's really important to be aware of that and to actually do something about that. So obviously if you've got a cold or flu and so on, you know that that's what's impacting on it, and, you know, perhaps you need to take some remedies for that. Obviously, you know, depression and so on, that needs guidance from the GP, but again, it's just being aware that can impact on sleep. The environment is so important. So just think about your room. So it's got to be slightly cooler than you probably imagine. Keep the window open. You know, think about the covers, think about the bedding. How comfortable is your bed? You know, one good tip is to keep your phone outside, so you're not tempted to go on it first, you know, before you go to bed, because again, that blue light affects you being able to drop off to sleep. Also, it's just the anxiety and so on. So just think about your environment, lighting as well. That's all good, you know, to bear in mind. The other thing is attitude. So if you're actually worrying about something, you've got something the next day, you've got an exam, or you've got a presentation or whatever, that can have an effect. So again, it's recognising that actually it's that anxiety or that attitude that's affecting your sleep, and being mindful of that, and then trying to do something about that. And the last thing I want to talk about is lifestyle, which is really, really important. You know, as you know, I am very much into lifestyle, about how you can help your body, how you can support your body to heal itself. So, and it's about prevention, you know, following the right lifestyles and so on before you get to the stage where actually you feel you need, you need some remedy or something like that to help. So, in terms of lifestyle, natural light. I mean, it's beautiful today. Blue skies, no clouds at all, and actually the light is so much stronger before midday. So if you can go out, sit outside, go to the park, just walk around the block, get that really intense morning light. That helps set your sleep pattern for later on. So if your body knows that actually now is a waking time, I mean, it's complicated. It's all to do with different, you know, neurotransmitters and, you know, hormones that are going on in your body, which I won't talk about now, but it all impacts. And being outside in light before midday, they recommend 20 to 30 minutes every day. That helps set your body clock, your circadian rhythm. So that's really important. The other thing is exercise. Exercise is really, really good in terms of getting rid of tension and any, you know, you can feel it sometimes when you're anxious. You're like that. You do exercise. You go out for a walk. Oh, you feel a lot more relaxed afterwards. So that's really important. Yeah, you know, exercise, yoga. The only thing I'd bear in mind with exercise, particularly sort of high intensity exercise, make sure you don't do it 2 hours, I think 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed, because all that adrenaline can keep you a bit, you know, wired and awake. So make sure you do it earlier on in the evening, or even better, earlier on in the day. Relaxation, I mentioned earlier, you know, in terms of your environment. So before you go to bed, you know, read a book, maybe do a bit of meditation, bit of relaxation, bit of knitting, whatever you do to relax. Not go on social media 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed, because I think that's, you know, it's designed to keep stimulating your brain. You know, if you're just flicking through or whatever you're liking, you don't need that. That will just increase the anxiety. The other thing is herbs and oils. I mean, I again love my herbal teas, and I'll just quickly go through my little things here. Lavender bag. Just you can get these little bags, you know, you can get a bit of muslin in tight with a bit of string. I put some lavender flowers in there, whether you can see there. Put some of those on, and I just sleep with that every night, so I don't have to do anything with it. If you find that actually the scent starts to wear off, I mean, I did that a few months ago, it's still quite strong. Just put a few drops of lavender oil, something like that. Or if you haven't got a bag and you want to use it tonight, just get a tissue, put a few drops of this and put it on your pillow, and actually just take 3 deep breaths in and out. And that, again, I think just the breathing, to be honest, helps reset your brain and helps relax you. But also the lavender is renowned for helping with relaxation. The other thing I always have is chamomile tea. I have that every evening. Great, and if you put it, I get tea bags. I've got loose ones here. I'm not sure you can see. There. I get loose bags as well. The nice thing about chamomile bags is you can use them on your eyes the next morning. If you get hay fever, they're really good for that. I've also got passiflora, which I've started to use. So that's another thing you can add to tea. When I say tea, just put a few pinches of those in a cafetiere or something, plunge it and then have it. Lemon balm, I've just picked that from the garden actually. It's calming, so it's not necessarily, you know, for sleep, but depends on what's causing your sleeplessness. If it's calm, if your brain is calm, that really helps you then drift off. So these are my favourite herbs that I like to use. So I'm just gonna, I think I've talked about lifestyle, so I'm gonna quickly answer some questions, and then I'll bring Paula in to bring in her perspective on it. Right, let's have a look. Right, question: does your sleep schedule affect the quality of sleep? I know people who are going to sleep at 6 a.m. and waking up at 3. Yes. Yeah, that sounds a bit upside down to me. I wouldn't recommend that at all, even if you're getting your 7 hours sleep. You make a good point though, because there are some people that work shifts, and they have to do that. So it's a really important point. It goes back to this internal body clock and how it's regulated by light. So again, without going into the science, you need light to help regulate your sleep pattern effectively, and that's why we are conditioned, you know, over millennia to sleep at night and wake up during the day. So that's why. So it does affect it. You don't get as good quality sleep. And actually there's been some research into people that do shift work, and in terms of whether that's affected their well-being, you know, in terms of, as I mentioned earlier, you know, their immunity, their repair, their cognitive, you know, their memory and so on. And they think that actually it does impact. So yeah, so, you know, sleep when it's night and wake up when it's during the day. Another question: what time do you go to bed and wake up? I try and go to bed about 10:30, and I have my alarm set for 7. Actually, I probably don't drop off till 11, and then I wake up at 7. So yeah, about 8 hours I try, but sometimes I don't always fall into that, so I'm not perfect. Do you think being in quarantine and not going out affects our sleep? Definitely, yes. Because we're not getting the exercise, we're not getting that activity and being able to move, we're probably stressed. So again, that's impacting. The other thing is if we're indoors and we're not making a point of actually going out, as I said, walking around the block, sitting in the garden, going to the park, we're not getting that light that governs our body clock, making us more sleepy at the wrong times or everything. Yeah, I mean, as I said, we do have a bit of a lull after eating in the afternoon. It's natural, so that might have an impact on it as well. But I think the important thing is to listen to your body. If your body's telling you to take it easy, take it easy. But try and get those lifestyle patterns and those good habits in place, so that your body then finds its balance, and then you can listen to your body if it's saying, actually, I need a nap after lunch. Have a nap after lunch. Another question is, should we consider taking siestas? That's a really good question. So again, it goes back to my last comment. If you need it, do. I don't. I find I feel really groggy afterwards. But a lot of Mediterranean countries, they have that because they get up quite early. They stop in the middle of the day because it's hot. Having grown up in a hot country myself, I remember as a child, you don't feel like going to sleep, but all the adults will be asleep, and you'll be thinking, it's the middle of the day, and then wake up late afternoon, maybe 4 or something like that, and then you carry on later when it's cooler. So that's the reason why that's happened. But again, if you feel that you need it, I think also you're not meant to have a siesta after 3 o'clock, because then it affects when you go back to sleep later. Right, okay, so I am going to bring Paula in. And please keep asking your questions, and we can answer them when we get them. So let's just see, Paula, is she connecting up? Good morning, Paula.
My children are just exiting the room.
Hello.
Hi, folks.
Hi, Paula.
Fantastic.
How are you?
I'm really well, thanks.
How's your sleep?
It's going well, actually.
Good.
So, but I love how you mentioned about the circadian rhythms, and this is a book that I would highly recommend. I'll post it. It's called The Circadian Code, and it's about the impact on sleep and all of your, for example, weight, memory, energy levels, hormones. It's really interesting, to realize something that we take for granted is so important. And then, of course, people who are, who do suffer from insomnia realize you can't take it for granted.
No, I know.
So I would really recommend it, and I'll post that as a title online for people to see. It's really valuable.
Yeah.
But I think, lifestyle tips, it's fantastic what you said. From a nutrition point of view, I would always look at the gut first. It's that microbiome where, we've got melatonin particularly, being synthesized. So, we've got 2 things happening, which is the melatonin happening in the pineal gland and also in the gut. So, when you're looking at sleep, I would always look at the gut and hormones. So, which is, it's a huge discussion topic on its own. But if people who are struggling with sleep, it's something to really address, is, to go back to their basics and to see, like you said, how much light they're having, how their gut is, and then, also to pay attention to the quarantine question, which is, at the moment we're experiencing that the rush of adrenaline with flight and fight at different times. You know, in the past when we were maybe rushing for a bus or a train, or you know, building ourselves up for an important telephone call with a boss or a client, you would have those feelings of, you know, like a rise in
energy, isn't it? Yes, yeah.
But now it's different because we might be watching the news or hearing the radio, and so that might be unexpected, and it might be happening in the wrong time of our day, so with our rhythms. So it's really difficult for, you know, then the body to start to control that real rush of adrenaline and what to do with it, particularly if you might be listening to the 10 p.m. news and you're going to bed at past 10, you know, so already your head is thinking and busy, but your adrenal system has kicked into play at the wrong time. So these are all things to pay attention to now that our life is quite different, and like you were saying, we're home.
Yes.
You know, so you know,
we're indoors more, aren't we? You know, we're already the indoor generation. I think we've become more of that. You know, despite obviously we can go out for as long as we want now, for as many times as we want. I think, you know, it's still different, isn't it? We're still, you know, leading a different lifestyle, for good or bad, compared to a few months ago.
Out, you know, so when we talk about, you know, these rhythms, you know, if you don't have to go to bed until 6 o'clock in the morning and get up at 3, because actually you don't, you know, that means your routine is completely different to what it may have, you know, where you may have had to get up for schooling or work.
Yes.
Or, you can throw that out the window. Of course, there's a constant feeling of jet lag if you're doing that.
Yes.
Because, like you said, you have no exposure to light.
Yeah.
And you're sleeping when your body naturally wants to be active, but actually you're exhausted because you created a new pattern.
Yeah. So pattern's really important, isn't it? And I think
really
you know,
important.
it's you know, some people are changing what time they wake up, like you say, because of you know, what's happening at the moment. But actually, you need to stick to it, even if you're not working or you're not doing the school run. It's really, really important for your body, because that's the pattern that you're used to, and that is a natural rhythm. To change that, because you think, oh, actually, I went to bed really late last night, I still need to get my 7 or 8 hours sleep. I'll sleep until 12. That's not good.
No, it's not. And even if you go to bed late, I would always recommend to any of my clients that you always get up at 7. And then if you're not well or you are really exhausted, go back to bed, but start your day.
Yes,
Start your day and maybe have something to eat to break your fast, or have something to drink. And then if your body is still exhausted and is just really saying you're unwell or exhausted, go back to bed. But have a time to start and then have a time to end, which you get to generally, you know, we're human.
Well, I was going to say, what's important as well, actually, if people are ill at the moment with coronavirus or any other
or virus or even allergy,
sleep is so important. It is, you know, you naturally want to be in bed. You feel, oh my God, I'm so exhausted, I'm so tired. It's because your immune system's kicking in, and it needs that rest to be really, really effective. So it's, you know, listen to your body. Don't think, oh no, I need to get up. You know, I'm feeling, you know, why am I feeling lazy? I'm saying that because that's how I sometimes feel. So I sometimes think, actually, I should be, you know, you feel like you want to kickstart yourself, you know. But, you know, I had a funny flu-y thing, you know, back in February. I'm not sure whether it was coronavirus or not, but I know, you know, I'd get up in the morning as usual, I'd do a couple of hours work, and I'd be exhausted. There weren't any particular symptoms. I didn't have a cough, I didn't have a cold, I had a bit of a headache, but I was absolutely drained. So I like to think actually my immune system was working really well. So it was actually, you know, keeping those obvious symptoms at bay, and it was basically just the tiredness that I was left with. But I suppose, you know what I'm like. I'm very much about letting your body heal itself. And I thought, no, I'll just stay in bed. I did a couple of, you know, as I said, a couple of hours work in the morning, doing some emails, any urgent things. And then, and, you know, it's such a healer, you know. So going back to your point, you know, about getting up, at the right time, and
Absolutely.
then going back.
That's what you need.
Yes.
The other thing is, of course, talking about the gut and melatonin, of course, that's where your immunity is really placed in the gut. 70% of everything that's happening is happening there. So once again, listen to yourself. If you need to have a broth or a soup, or, eat lightly because you're not well, or you're feeling low, and of course we talk about circadian rhythms through a day and a night, but also you need to look at the rhythm of your month. There are days that we do what we need to do and there's nothing left in the tank for extra, and there are days where actually we are action and we go for it. So but these will fluctuate, and I think that's the same for men and women. It's not just because a woman has a identifiable cycle. I think it's a human cycle that we're talking about.
And also the seasons as well.
Absolutely.
The seasons, in the winter, you talk about that a lot, Paula, about, the body contracting. Just like, all the plants and, the earth, everything else is contracting. We feel like that, the days are shorter, there's less light, it's colder. That affects our sleep pattern also.
Absolutely. You definitely need to have more sleep in the winter. And also, we choose different food in the winter. If we're eating seasonally, we have, stodgier, more kind of heavier nourishment, because actually that's what we really want. But of course, if you, in the summer, we're eating lighter food, we feel lighter, and of course that's when we have all these lettuces and, beautiful leaves that are in, that are all grown above the ground.
Yes,
But of course, the Chinese have that lovely saying, which is, every hour of sleep you have before midnight is worth 2 after midnight.
Yes.
So if we're looking at that, particularly now as the sun is up at 6 o'clock, all sleeping back earlier and then to get up earlier with the sun, we can do that as well. So it's going back to more of the rhythms of life before television and electric lighting, and all fear of it. Just turn the television off. Go to bed. So I just think these are really valuable to think of ourselves as a part of the world we live in, rather than controlling the world we live in. So
in terms, you mentioned lettuce, which is really interesting. I've always heard that lettuce is something that helps you go to sleep. There's things in it that makes you go to sleep. I wouldn't have it last thing at night, but there are certain foods. So one of the questions is, are there any foods that you should avoid before bed because it disturbs our sleep? The only one that I do know of is cheese, because obviously it's harder to digest. And actually, I suppose any food that's hard to digest, or you're eating 2-3 hours before you go to bed, it's going to sit there, and obviously all the blood will be going in different places, and it does disturb your sleep, and that's why you get really weird cheesy dreams. Are there any other foods that you should avoid, and are there any foods that you should have more of?
I would say don't eat 3 hours beforehand, because what happens is your gut is then having to digest it. And if you've had a really heavy meal, and then you kind of get home and go to bed, you're full, and your body really is telling you, I am uncomfortable. That's when you need to reach for your digestive kind of teas and your minerals and things, just to try and as a calmative. So have your meal, enjoy it, but then think about it. And the same with, for example, hungry children. I often often they're not hungry, but they might be peckish. So for me, it's always, if someone is hungry or before bed, I say, take a teaspoon of honey, because not only does honey feed the brain, so it keeps blood sugar under control, it does actually, it helps with sleeping. So, whereas, often people will reach for a biscuit, or don't. It's all stimulants. So, sugar and stuff, and even an apple. If you have an apple before bed, your gut has to digest it. There's a lot to digest there. It's full of fibre and Whereas really what you want your gut to be doing is healing, synthesizing, doing all those things while you sleep. So, building your immunity, fighting any bacteria that you have inhaled or and just actually, doing what it's meant to do rather than digesting through the night.
Yes,
On that through the day, you're also walking, running, moving around the house.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
So in terms, I mean, I usually recommend, you know, a hot milky drink. It's something like Ovaltine, you know, it's like an oaty, malty drink. That's, you know, I find that helps. I mean, I don't know what your experience of hot drinks. I mean, not hot chocolate, because chocolate's got some caffeine in, and caffeine's another another thing to, you know, that will affect sleep.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's probably, a lot of people know that anyway. But, you know, in terms of a hot milky drink,
well, you know, there's definitely a hot milky drink can really calm you down, you know, so it can make, and also we have all the memories associated of being, you know, a child or you know, and having that kind of soul food. So we don't drink a lot of milk in our family, so you know, it's not something I reach for, but you know, if it makes you feel sleepy and relaxed,
yes, yeah.
I'm all for it. So the thing is also, when your body is truly exhausted, or not exhausted, when your body is ready to sleep, by the time you lie down, switch off your light, it should be around about 7 minutes before you are starting your sleep patterns. You know, that's something to be aware of as well. If that doesn't happen for you, is to, you know, go back and address the things, you know, like what are you doing through your day?
Yeah.
Are you having coffee after, I don't know, for some people, it's after 12, they can't drink coffee because then
I avoid it. Yeah, I avoid. If I'm having my coffee, in fact, what time is it now? I haven't had my morning coffee yet. I tend to have it about 11, but I don't have it after 12. I have tea, obviously, because it's got less caffeine in. But yeah, I think you're right, and I think it's about keeping a diary. If you are having issues, that's what I've recommended, is actually keep a diary, a sleep diary. So, you know, what are you doing? You know, what exercise, what activity, what time did you go out? You know, what are you eating? What are you drinking? You know, all of that, almost like an audit, really, just to find out where the issues could be addressed. You know, where things could be addressed.
Also, when to find out when your insomnia started. You know, for some women that I work with, you know, it often starts with the delivery of their first child. You know, they never get a rhythm back after, you know, that baby, because of course, you know, they're up through the night, you know, sleeping becomes irregular, hormones are not addressed at the time, so, you know, because they are written off as new mums. So actually, you know, there's things to go back and go, oh, when did that happen? You know, or shift workers, you know, to a pattern once their, you know, maybe their jobs change.
Yeah.
Because we need to, you know, there's no doubt that poor sleeping is also aging on us. You know, we have to prepare if we can't sleep properly.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. One thing that I've been using with my children, you know, you've talked about your lavender bags, but I've been using pine.
Okay.
It is fantastic.
Yes.
And or I use it either straight on the pillows, or I use it in a
diffuser. Yes.
Yeah. Diffuser in their rooms, and it's changed the way that they are sleeping. It's been amazing. So I really highly.
Do you use that regularly?
Yes.
Right.
So so you know, whether it's a combination of pine and lavender or just pine, it really works. So highly recommend.
Yeah. That's good. Right. Well, I think we've given.
I think we could go on chatting, but we probably need to let people go.
I was going to say we could talk about a whole load of other things actually, but yeah, I mean, sleep is such a big topic. This is a book I absolutely love. It's more of a scientific one, but actually it's a really interesting. It's a really good read, all about why we sleep, how we sleep, and you know, it's the science behind it. So I find that really, really interesting. There's lots of resources out there. So there's the Mental Health Foundation have got loads of resources there. Obviously the NHS website, something called Sleepio. There's lots of apps and things like that. So, you know, it's not to get too obsessed, because if you start getting too obsessed about actually how much sleep have I got deep sleep, because if you've got a Fitbit, it measures your sleep architecture. and you can get a bit obsessed by that. So it's not about that. It's just about making sure that you are sleeping, getting the right amount of sleep, and getting the right quality of sleep. And really, all the lifestyle things we talked about earlier will benefit everything else, not just your sleep.
Absolutely. You know, just for happiness.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll find that happy people sleep well. So, you know, so maybe the thing is we need to laugh a little bit more, you know, watch a few more comedies.
Yes,
and
yeah.
fun, even in these strange times. So,
Yeah.